All right, what is up, you guys, and welcome back in. It has been a few days since 1126 has released, and now it is time to go back and read what you guys commented on the review video. I think this is a lot of fun, right? Going down, seeing the general sentiment of the chapter, and also seeing what people are theorizing about and talking about when it comes to 1126. So that being said, let's get right to it. And also, another reason why I like doing this is because it's a nice refresher about what happened last week as we go into 1127 and the chapters beyond. So the first comment here, we're going to start from the top and then work our way down to the bottom. It says, Yassop, be like, any friend of my kid is a enemy of mine. And below, they say bro has to be one of the biggest deadbeats in anime, and I completely agree. I mean, he left Usopp at an early age, he left his sick, dying wife. Does he even know that she's dead? We have no idea, because he never visited the island afterwards, to our knowledge. So yeah, Yasopp is a really interesting character. As far as Yasopp beating Bartolomeo and, the Red Hair crew doing that, I am still very curious to see how Luffy's going to react to all of this information, right? When it came to Shanks beating Kid, it's like, okay, Luffy had good connections with Kid, but at the same time, they're completely different pirate groups. But as far as Barto goes, Barto flies under Luffy's flag. How is Luffy going to react now that a subordinate of his actually got beat down by his old mentor? I think that's going to be really fascinating. Of course, Barto is completely in the wrong in this scenario, and Luffy never gave him the A-OK to do this, and that's why I think this is a really interesting plot development, because I really want to see how Luffy handles things like this, right? What are Luffy's leadership skills going to be like? Because this right here is one of those scenarios that he can't exactly just laugh off and go along with the day, right? He has to address this. He either has to side with Shanks and say that he was in the right, or he has to side with Bartolomeo simply because he flies his flag. Can't wait to see what happens there, and I would love to pass the question back to you guys. What do you think Luffy is going to do about this situation once he finds out about it? Moria is free essentially means that Perona has successfully liberated her boss from Pirate Island prison. Yes, she did, and I'm excited to see Perona again, man. Perona, for me, I've said it. If you're not a stranger to the channel, then you know that Perona is my #1 girl in One Piece. Forget Nami, forget Robin. Give me more Perona. I was actually kind of sad when we didn't see more Perona on Hachinotsu. But with Moria making a comeback, you know who's going to be right beside him? His, quote, daughter, Perona. Which is a really wholesome backstory, by the way. If you guys don't know the backstory with Moria and Perona, Moria found Perona as an abandoned child, and he raised her as if she was his daughter. And that's why Perona is so loyal to him. It's a really wholesome story, and I kind of wish Oda expanded more on Moria and Perona and their whole crew, but I doubt that'll ever happen, right? The most we're gonna get for us Moria fans is an explanation as to why the world government doesn't like him, and also maybe Moria just joining Cross Guild and maybe getting revenge on Blackbeard, which actually is quite a lot now that I say it out loud. This has to be a giant child that captured Nami and the crew. Whomever is not worried about humans having swords. Oh, that's right. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, they gave her a sword, so that must mean either one, they're friendly with Nami, which is kind of where I'm at right now, but it could also mean that right there, where they're not worried about a human having a sword. It's like a toothpick to them. So yeah, why not give Nami a sword? But I am still kind of wondering where the climate act is. I said it in the review, but there is a chance Nami just, reaches down and brings it out of nowhere. But I am wondering where Zeus is. Zeus wasn't drinking alcohol. He wasn't drinking Green Fairy. Zeus, tell us what happened that night. Oh, wait, outside of Zeus, I guess Brook could tell us too, right? Does Brook get drunk? I forgot. I feel like they tackled that in the series. But if Brook can't get drunk and or hallucinate, then maybe Brook will tell us what the hell happened the past 24 to 48 hours. All right, so this comment says, Shanks says, I'ma let it slide. And Yassop responds by saying, I respectfully disagree. And below, he didn't even use a named attack FFS. Yeah, Yassop is crazy. And I still wonder, to this very moment, how Yassop actually blew up that ship. Like, is it due to an explosive round? Was it hockey infused? I saw one comment where somebody said that maybe there was an explosive barrel on Bartolomeo's ship, which isn't substantiated by anything, but I thought that was kind of a clever idea. But yeah, Yassop did his thing here, and I love the Shanks and Yasopp dynamic, or I could say like, the red-haired pirate dynamic in general, because Yasopp had the galls to do this despite Shanks wanting to let them go, and it just shows how much they trust each other. Because let's be real, right? Shanks can see into the future when things go down. So Shanks must have seen this happening. He's like, okay, Yasopp's doing his thing. I'm gonna let it slide. And honestly, I could see the Straw Hats functioning the same way. Like, imagine if Zoro did something, or Sanji did something, or Usopp did something, and Luffy didn't really know what was going on. I feel like Luffy would also let it slide, simply because he has that much trust in his Nakama, and he probably knows that they're doing the right thing. Like, as far as Yasopp goes, right? In this situation, yes, we let the Barto pirates slide. But right when they left, Barto was bad-mouthing Shanks. He called the dude soft. And he was also like, oh, the Yonko are supposed to be a lot more ruthless than this. What are they doing? And it's like, okay, like at that point, you can't let them slide anymore. You gotta teach them a lesson. You can't have them spreading the rumor that the red-haired crew are the most lax among the Yonko, right? We can't have more people coming to this territory, burning the flag, and thinking they're gonna get away with this, right? Barto was supposed to be the one exception. But he blew it. He literally blew it. And then Yasopp had to blow him. Nami, being a human doll for a Viking and being put in a kid's Lego house is a hilarious concept twist. And yeah, that is why I love this idea so much. And with Nami being here, I wonder where the other Straw Hats are. Imagine there's other toy sets that the Straw Hats are a part of, right? We have Nami with the Legos. We have Luffy with Bionicles. I'm trying to think of more, like maybe Usopp in a Buzz Lightyear box. Like, imagine Elbaf is just Toyland. I think that'd be super sick. I doubt it's going to be the case. I think Nami is the special exception. But yeah, Oda bringing Legos into One Piece, I think, is phenomenal. All right, so this comment right here actually quoted something I said in the video. And I said, I don't think Yamato will dance on the streets naked. And right below, they're like, hey, bro, what are you saying? So I thought I might as well just hop in here and explain a little bit. I'm sure you guys can kind of piece it together, but with Yamato's journey paralleling Odin's journey, and with Yamato wanting to be Odin, I was like, hey, Orochi and Kaido kidnapped people in Wano. And what did they do? They showed Odin the hostages and said, hey, Odin, you have to dance naked for 5 years straight, and then we'll let these guys go. And bouncing off of that, I'm just saying that maybe, just maybe, there's a chance that that might happen here, right? Imagine we meet the kidnapper and they're like, hey, Yamato, we're gonna kill all of these kids and women if you don't dance naked. I'm not saying it's a good plot point. I'm just saying it could be one, right? With the parallels going on with Yamato wanting to be Odin, that is something that happened. It happened in the past. It can happen in the future. But like I said, I don't think it will happen though. Simply because I think that would divert too much attention to the cover page story and away from the actual chapter. Like, could you guys imagine the chaos that would erupt if Yamato started dancing naked against her own will? Like, oh my god. Yeah, I don't want to imagine what it would be like to go online during that week, so maybe it's better if Oda doesn't do this. All right, so this comment says, Yasopp, casually blowing up ships is a huge feat, not gonna lie. And right below, we have a debate. They say, destroying a normal-sized ship at this point in the story isn't a huge feat. Zoro, fresh out of the time skip, cut a ship in half casually. I feel like every or most commanders can. And I do agree with both of these comments, actually. So, while destroying a ship isn't exactly a huge feat, I think what makes Yasopp's feat in this chapter so spectacular is the fact that he did it with a single shot. Apparently, right? He aims the gun, we don't really see what happens there, and then next thing you know, the ship's blown up, right? Maybe it took like 5 or 10 bullets, but, based on what we're looking at, it was one bullet. One bullet put that ship down. And I think that is what's so amazing about it. And personally, I'm not a big fan of the Zoro comparison. I could see why they brought it up, and it does make sense. But the difference is that we've seen swordsmen do crazy things in the series, right? Zoro cutting a ship, Mihawk cutting a meteor. Like, we've seen insane sword feats. But when it comes to guns, regular looking guns at that, we haven't seen much. Like, even Ben Beckman pointing the pistol at Kizaru. Like, we haven't even seen what that would do, right? So this is our first gun feat. You could look at it like that, right? Ignore Yasopp, ignore the ship blowing up. Just say this is an insane gun feat. Like Usopp, yeah, like Usopp has the skull grass bomb, and that makes a big explosion. Usopp has the exploding stars, but that's a slingshot. Usopp has specialized bullets. Yasopp, like, he's bringing something new to the battlefield, right? It's absolutely insane in my opinion. I could see why people are unimpressed, but personally, I'm just kind of blown away that a gun could do this, right? Like, is this gun listed as like one of the 5 legendary guns in the One Piece verse? Because guns have no hype behind them. Like with swords, for example, we have like different grades of them, man. We got supreme grade, you know, great blades, regular above average grade. Sorry, I'm like blanking on the names. But for guns, they're just guns. Like maybe he has like a named gun. We don't know, man. And I think that's what makes this so cool, in my opinion. But of course, it's just my opinion. You know, if you disagree, that's fine. But, you know, I hopefully I conveyed why the Yasopp thing is spectacular. Okay, so we're going to read a few more of these replies because there are 36 of them, so this goes on for a bit. But right below, they say he did it with a single gunshot. And below that, they say, you see the vision, bro. He's packing some serious heat. And then the original replier comes back and they say, not a big deal anymore, especially if he used hockey. Zoro and Sabaody fresh out of the time skip with a single slice destroyed a ship. Now, in my opinion, I don't think that version of Zoro is beating Yasopp. And below, they say, I'm not saying Yasopp is weak at all. I'm just saying this feat is standard and shouldn't surprise us that much. I think Yasopp having future sight and being able to see a few minutes into the future is a huge feat personally. Most people can't do that. And below that, they say, I mean, Mihawk's biggest feat is either stalling Visa or blowing up a ship with an unnamed attack, so I think it's pretty hype-worthy. And below, wow, this goes on for a minute. I mean, with one bullet is a feat, and he is the 4th strongest behind Lucky Roo and Ben Beckman. And yeah, like for me, it's the bullet thing that really makes this a feat. Like, you know, if it was a swordsman, I'd be like, okay, dime a dozen. But with a gun, though, that's crazy, right? I mean, I understand where this guy's coming from for sure. But, you know, it's just different viewpoints at the end of the day. That's all it is. All right, so this comment says, Barto, if he ever did research Luffy, he would be ashamed for mocking Shanks, Luffy's idol. And right below, they say, I like to imagine the Marine saved Barto and is going to send him to Impel Down. But Kobe stops them and takes Barto with him. And Kobe talks to Bartolomeo about how he met Luffy and talks about the Axe Hand Morgan arc, etc. Yeah, that actually would be pretty cool. But I would argue that the Kobe we're going to meet in this final saga is going to be a very different Kobe. We're talking about a Kobe that lost Garp and a Kobe that, you know, last we saw, he looked at the camera and he said, Luffy, I'm going to have to put a stop to those dreams, buddy. You know, like, Luffy, I'm going to have to end your dreams right now. Well, you know, I kind of paraphrase that, but you guys know what I mean, right? I think the Kobe we're going to see now is going to be more focused on the prize. Yes, he'll still be a Luffy fanboy, but I think he'll have to push it to the side for the sake of saving the world. As far as the original comment, yeah, I don't know how the hell Barto doesn't know that Luffy's idol is Shanks. Like, for somebody who touts themselves as the #1 Luffy fanboy, a guy who has a ship called the Going Luffy, how does he not know about Luffy and Shanks' connection? I mean, of course, like, it was in Fuchsia Village, you know, not a lot of information goes out there, but Barto is a super fan. You know, dude, Barto is a super fan. And I'm surprised that he didn't ask Luffy during his time with him, because Barto took him to Zunisha. So I'm like, yo, you guys didn't, you know, kick the can down the road a little bit and talk about his idol? Kind of crazy. But then again, one thing that kind of detracts from that sentiment is that if you were to ask Law if Luffy had a connection to Shanks, he would say no, because Luffy doesn't talk about Shanks. Like, even during Punk Hazard, when Luffy and Law made their alliance, Luffy did say that he would take down all 4 emperors. He included Shanks on the list. So maybe Luffy, you know, even if he did talk to Barto about Shanks, he would say, hey, one day I'm going to beat this guy, or one day I'm going to surpass Shanks. So even if Barto knew, I feel like he still might have done it just because he wants to propel Luffy to the top. I don't know, that's a hard one, huh? Because Luffy does know that Shanks is an opponent when it comes to finding the One Piece first. So yeah, and that's why, like, you know, when people think about the Straw Hat Pirates versus the Red Hair Pirates, it's always a Davy Back fight. Because it's like the perfect middle ground, right? Your opponent's going for the same goal, but you don't hate each other and want to kill each other. So that's why whenever you see people talk about, you know, Elbaf or when Luffy meets Shanks, it's always, oh, they're gonna do a Davy Back fight because it's kind of harmless. So y'all remember the huge Legos for toddlers, the oversized ones. They aren't Legos, but they're basically connecting blocks. I think Nami is in a dollhouse and a giant toddler is playing with her. And right below, they say that might be exactly what it is. Goda has been cooking these last 3 to 5 chapters with lore piece and setting us up for the final battle. And yep, like I said, I am a huge fan of a giant playing with Nami in a dollhouse. That'd be a nice twist, and, you know, thinking back to the Legos and blocks, I could just see it being a quirk of Elbaf, right? Maybe this is Loki or, you know, royalty, and that would explain why they have Legos and not just simple wooden dollhouses like the rest of Elbaf. Or this could even be a devil fruit. You know, it could be the Lego no Mi or the Block no Mi. Nami's I'm done took me out. I was cracking up. She was so over the crew's shenanigans. And yet Nami said I'm done because she didn't understand why the Elbaf warriors the way they are. And here's the thing. I think that is exactly why Oda separated Nami specifically. Right? Because Nami's the one person who does not understand the giants and why they fight. You know, she doesn't understand Usopp's dream of wanting to become a brave warrior and why it's so cool. So I think by separating Nami, she's going to somehow appreciate giant culture and the culture of warriors. Maybe she won't, but I think it would be nice development if she comes to terms with, oh, you know what? Maybe the giants do make sense to some extent. We're always talking about how Elbaf is going to be Usopp's arc, but it could be a Nami arc too. I always felt that Shanks was going to confront Luffy about Barto declaring war on the red-haired pirates, thus starting a Davy Back Fight, which would also play as a test to see if Luffy is truly the pirate he said he would be when they meet again. I also figured at some point it would be interrupted by Blackbeard or Akainu, leaving it to be finished at the end of the series, or left unfinished as Shanks dies in front of Luffy after telling him he's happy to see Luffy has a wonderful crew of friends and every bit of the great pirate he knew he'd become. And yep, I love that. I think that's beautiful. And that's another thing with Davy Back Fights too, right? Earlier I talked about them, but another reason I like it is because it shows how crafty and cunning you can be as a pirate. Like, for example, Foxy. Not a lot of people like Foxy, hear me out, but Foxy was a pirate. He cheated in every single game. So maybe that's what Shanks is looking for when they do the Davy Back Fight, right? He wants to see how underhanded Luffy could be, and if he's, you know, that guy or that pirate. Or then again, maybe Shanks is more of an honest guy, but that is yet to be seen, right? As much as we like to think that we know the red-haired crew, we actually don't, right? They're still a mystery, and that's why I really appreciated this chapter, because not only did we get the Yasopp feat, but we also got Hongo talking to Barto and, you know, giving him the fake poison bottle. I hope Oda does that for the rest of the red hair crew. You know, maybe we get a chapter with Lime Juice, a chapter with Howling Gab, a chapter with Bonk Punch, or maybe even Building Snake. Like, I think that'd be awesome. And with the red-haired pirates, a lot of people believe that they're going to die at the hands of Blackbeard or maybe the Gorosei or somebody else. And if that is the case, then that's all the more reason why we need those chapters before they're gone. And so that we feel that emotion if they do die or end up disbanding or whatever happens. I believe Loki is actually the youngest giant we know of. It wouldn't be crazy if he put Nami in his toy house. Also, it makes sense that Luffy talked to Usopp and Chopper about Elbaf. Then they got excited, trying to rope in Zoro. He says they need Nami to get them there safely, and then Sanji overhears it, and boom, that could be how they ended up on Elbaf. And at first I was thinking about the characters that met Dorian Broggie initially at Little Garden, and Chopper wasn't a part of that group, unfortunately. But Chopper, like you said, time and time again, he has been really excited about the Giants. And then, even going back to the chapter we got 2 weeks ago, when the Straw Hats left and they were celebrating, we only saw Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper. So yeah, Chopper, he's a big old giant lover, and I could totally see Chopper joining in on the adventure. Alright, so this comment says, Blackbeard could use Caribou's power to load him up with supplies and Van Augur to transport him to the top of the red line, brother. That is a good theory. That is a really good theory, actually. Because here's the thing, right? Caribou wants to join the Blackbeard crew. Sure, you know, he could drop the information about the poneglyphs, the ancient weapons, but outside of that, what else could Caribou provide? Food! Devil fruit powers, right? The swamp no Mi. Yeah, no, he could totally do this. And with Lafitte monitoring the situation between the Revs and the world government, Blackbeard's going to pick a side there. He told Lafitte to start working on the plan. And when you think about it, you know, between the Revs and the world government, who would Blackbeard side with? I think he would sign with the world government because he's already fought Dragon before. Well, he didn't fight Dragon, but he, went back and he destroyed Baltigo, which is Dragon's home base. So yeah, I think it only makes sense for Blackbeard to sign with the WG and look really good with them. So how would he do that? Boom, here we have it. Caribou is known for storing food within his body. You can simply take him to the top of the red line, give the food to the Holy Land, and Blackbeard would be in the world government's good graces. I think this is a great idea. The only problem with this is that whatever Blackbeard is planning currently doesn't have Caribou's powers in mind. So if he does do this, it would be in addition to his current plan. But yeah, I think you cooked with this one. I never in a million years thought about this, right? It's been 3 to 4 days since the chapter dropped, and not once did I think about how to use Caribou outside of information. So kudos to you. So right below that, though, they say, I really love how ruthless Shanks is. He really learned from Roger. Yep. Like father, like son in a way. Dude, Roger, man. I always bring this up like my grandpa telling World War stories. But Roger, we can't forget, while we saw him at Laugh Tale and, the pink petals were flying in the background and he's laughing and smiling and he's over here, drinking sake and having a good time. We can't forget that Roger killed all of Squard's crew and then left Squard alive so that he could feel the misery of losing everyone around him. And hey, maybe Squard deserved it, right? We don't know the context of the whole situation, but on paper, Roger's a monster. Roger is an absolute monster. But then again, it is the world of pirates. You signed up for it when you, flew the skull and crossbones. So that's just a part of the game, and Roger was a master at it. Sai, I didn't see you expand on the Kuma and Bonney moment in this chapter. How dare you? This is a disgrace. How could you miss something so beautiful? How dare you? I'm absolutely flabbergasted. I truly expected more from one of my favorite content creators on YouTube. Guys, please like this comment so Sai can grasp my grievances. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna rip off the band-aid. But the reason why I didn't expand on it is because I didn't think that Horizon looked that great. And you know what they say, right? If you have nothing good to say, don't say it. So I didn't want to say, hey guys, that Horizon looked kind of lame. There's no sun. You got like 3 clouds in the sky. Nothing's behind them. Yeah, I don't know. I think when the anime gets there, it's going to look phenomenal. They're going to get like all these scenic shots. You're going to see birds in the sky. The sunlight dropping down on Kuma's face and Bonnie's face. It's going to be fantastic. But in the manga, looking at the panel, I'm like, yo, it's just water and clouds, brother. It's just water and clouds. But yeah, like I said, I'm holding out for the anime, but that is why I skipped over the Kuma and Bonney Horizon scene. All right, so this comment says, Nami also has the hair of these Scandinavian people. I wouldn't be surprised if she's from around there originally. We've seen normal-sized people living alongside giants in Big Mom's flashback. And this is very true. And one thing that adds fuel to this as well is that Oda said, if the Strawhats are from real-world places, Nami's place of origin is actually Scandinavia. So I do think there's something here. As far as Nami goes, we don't know much about her origins, right? We know she came from Oikot Village, and, the Marines were fighting some pirates there, and something was going down, and then Bellamere found Nojiko and Nami and took them home. Outside of that, we have no idea who her parents are, what Oikot Village is even like, so there is a chance it's an offshoot of Elbaf or something similar. Or even if that's not the case, this could be a hint that Elbaf, just as much as it's going to be Usopp's arc, it's also going to be a Nami arc too. Also, quick correction on what I just said, but Nami is actually from Sweden. I just looked it up to double confirm myself. But yes, Nami, if she were from a place in the real world, Oda said she'd be from Sweden. There have been rumors of Oda's home and Oda having tons of Legos in his home, often building islands in places from the manga with Legos before drawing them. What's also interesting is that Oda has an infamous shark toilet in one of his bathrooms, and the first thing we saw when we got to Egghead was a giant mechanical shark. He also has a Terminator statue in his office, maybe represented by the Iron Giant. Maybe Oda is telling the story based on the stuff around his house, maybe foreshadowing a future storyline that breaks the fourth wall. And I could totally see the story breaking the fourth wall during the final battle with Luffy, right? Because Luffy right now, he's a cartoon character, right? When he activates Gear 5th, whether you want to go that far or not, he does have Toon Force in a way, right? He can turn his imagination into reality. So who's to say he doesn't start, like, you know, throwing manga panels at Imu, or, you know, breaking out of the manga panel and punching him from a different manga series? I think that'd be really awesome. I don't know how the other mangas in Shonen Jump would like that, but just imagine if Luffy punches somebody so hard, they get sent all the way to Kagurabachi. I don't know. But yeah, I could see it breaking the fourth wall, but going back to the Legos for a second, yes, I have seen the pictures of Oda's house. First off, Oda's house is super cluttered. It looks insane. And he does have the shark toilet. He does have the Legos. And hopefully, I said it last time, I'll say it again, hopefully somebody at the Legos headquarters sees this chapter of One Piece and they say, hey guys, let's make a One Piece Lego set or collection, because I would eat that up. That green ferryman, you know they hallucinated some great adventure and ended up on Elbaf already. I love the idea of the OGs getting to quest together again like old times. I do as well. You know, as much as I love Brooke, Frankie, and Robin, and even Jinbei, like, I do like when the crew was a lot smaller, because that meant that we spent a lot more time with each and every Straw Hat. Nowadays, with the arcs progressing how they are, like on Egghead, for example, we don't get to spend time with a lot of characters. You know, like, if you go to Egghead Island, you could probably count on one hand how often Usopp has been shown. Like, it's kind of insane how that happens, and I do like it when the crews get split. I know that's very divisive. People have been going back and forth about whether or not they like this trope. Personally, I'm a big fan of it, and if things go this way, I kind of hope that the other Straw Hats stay off the island for at least a day until they show up on Elbaf, just to give the OG crew some time to have fun. I do believe that there will be some gap, though, because going back to the last chapter, they said, hey, we can't go back to Elbaf at this rate. You know, we're going to go back as a disgrace. So I do think that the Straw Hats that aren't on the island are going to sail around for a little bit before they go to Elbaf. All right, so now for the last comment, they say, hopefully the people getting kidnapped don't turn out to be Kurozumi, because if they are, this could get really dark. Yeah, no, this is a good suggestion. So as far as the Kurozumi goes, right, they do still exist within Wano. I mean, hell, Kanjuro, he was a Kurozumi and nobody knew for all these years. Orochi is another prime example, and Tama is another example of this as well. Maybe the Wano citizens, after seeing what Orochi did, they're like, hey, we need to cut this clan out, right? They are bad news. So they do go around kidnapping the Kurozumi and killing them, which, you know, this is like an endless cycle of hatred, and it'll never end unless you either, one, kill other Kurozumi, or two, you just get over those past grievances and say, hey, just because Orochi did something wrong doesn't mean that Tama is going to do something wrong as well. I think this is a really good comment. I haven't even really put much thought into it like that, and this is a different spin on everything I've thought of. So, you know, this is a great comment to end the night on. But hey, thank you guys again for stopping by, you know, checking out these comments with me. I really freaking appreciate it. And thank you so much for commenting in the previous video, because that is what led to us being here today. Hopefully you guys have a great weekend. I will see you guys when 11/27 comes out. And yeah, with that being said, my name is Sai, and I'm signing out. Peace.